The sound of heavy boots striking the floor echoed through the small roadhouse, every eye turning to the man who stepped inside. His broad shoulders carried years of discipline, his weathered hands bore the marks of labor and combat, and his tired blue eyes revealed the silent weight of raising 2 children alone. This was Jack Monroe, a Marine veteran, a single dad, and the quiet owner of a roadhouse on the outskirts of town. His world was simple: his daughters, his work, and keeping the roadhouse alive. He wasn't the kind of man who sought trouble, but sometimes, trouble had a way of finding him. And that night, it arrived on 2 roaring Harleys, parked crookedly outside. The twins who walked in weren't ordinary bikers. Their leather vests read Hell's Angels, their presence commanding the kind of respect that makes a room grow tense. Conversations stilled, forks clinked against plates, and even the jukebox seemed to hum lower. Most men would have stayed out of it, but not Jack. Because behind their intimidating tattoos and rough edges, he saw something familiar: 2 young men, lost in a world that judged them before knowing them. They weren't there to cause chaos, they were there because the world outside had slammed its doors in their faces, and they just wanted a place to breathe. But trouble wasn't far behind. A group of local hotshots, the kind that thought they owned the county, swaggered in with loud voices and cocky smirks. They saw the twins, sneered, and spat cruel words that would have started a fight anywhere else. Jack stepped in before fists could fly. His voice, firm and commanding, carried the authority of a man who'd led men into battle. "Not here. Not in my place." The room fell silent as he positioned himself between the bikers and the locals, his stance unshakable, his presence unmovable. The hotshots weren't used to being challenged, and their laughter turned bitter. One tried to shove Jack aside, but in one swift movement, as smooth as years of Marine training allowed, he had the man pinned against the bar, without a drop of spilled whiskey. He didn't raise his fist, didn't curse, didn't need to. His calm, steel-eyed warning was enough. They left with muttered threats, but Jack knew it wouldn't end there. The twins looked at him with something they rarely gave anyone: gratitude. "Why'd you stick your neck out for us, old man?" one asked. Jack only shrugged. "Because everyone deserves one place in this world where they're not hunted." They didn't know how to answer, but their silence said more than words. That night, as he tucked his daughters into bed, Jack wondered if he'd made a mistake. He didn't fear for himself, Marines don't break easy, but he feared for his girls, the 2 little souls who meant everything. Morning brought more than sunlight. It brought the sound of engines. Not 2, not 10, but hundreds. The roar shook the ground, rattled windows, and made curious neighbors peek from behind curtains. Jack walked to the door of the roadhouse, his heart pounding at the sight before him. The gravel lot was filled with chrome and leather, the sun glinting off polished tanks and handlebars. Over 200 women, lady bikers from across the state, had answered a call. The twins had spread word of the Marine who stood up for them, and in their world, loyalty meant everything. The leader, a fierce woman with braided hair and eyes like fire, stepped forward and extended her hand. "Jack Monroe, you defended our brothers. Today, we defend you." Jack didn't know what to say. His daughters ran to the window, eyes wide at the sight of leather jackets with angel wings embroidered on the back, lining up in perfect formation outside their dad's roadhouse. For once, Jack wasn't alone. That day, the lot turned into something more than asphalt and gravel. It was a sanctuary. The lady bikers ate at his tables, laughed with his daughters, and filled the air with stories of their own battles, not just on the road, but in life. They told of judgment, of being underestimated, of fighting twice as hard to be seen as equals. Jack's daughters, wide-eyed, saw in them a strength that went beyond leather jackets and roaring engines. They saw women who weren't afraid to stand for what was right. Word spread quickly. By nightfall, the same locals who had sneered came back, this time hanging at the edge of the lot, shocked at the wall of bikes and loyalty surrounding the roadhouse. Not a fist was raised, not a voice was lifted in anger. Instead, there was silence, the kind of silence that humbles even the loudest bullies. The hotshots knew they'd lost, not just to Jack, but to a family larger than they could ever break. As the last bike engines cooled that evening, Jack stepped outside. The leader clasped his shoulder and said, "You don't stand alone anymore, Marine. You've got us now." He nodded, his throat tight, his heart swelling in a way he hadn't felt in years. For so long, he had been carrying the weight of everything alone, raising his daughters, fighting his battles in silence, holding back his pain. But that night, for the first time, he realized he didn't have to. The next morning, the lot was empty again, but it didn't feel the same. The silence wasn't heavy anymore. It was alive, filled with the echoes of laughter, loyalty, and the promise that when you do the right thing, even when it costs you, people notice. Sometimes, they come back. Sometimes, they come back in numbers that fill an entire Roadhouse lot. And that, my friends, is why you should never underestimate the power of standing up for others, even when you feel outnumbered. Jack Monroe defended two men who had no one else, and in return, he gained a family larger than he could ever imagine. If this story touched you, if it reminded you of the strength in kindness and courage, then don't forget to hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more powerful true life stories. Because at the end of the day, stories like these aren't just about bikers or Marines, they're about us, about the courage it takes to stand up when it counts, and the family we find when we do.